including the NPP and the NDP, LPG as well, if I'm to name the three specifically. They have decided that on Monday, they will be staging a protest under the theme, Save Our Judiciary. In between all of this happening, some appointments have been made by the president to the Supreme Court, 7 new judges for the apex courts, taking us closer to 20, the highest that we've had in our history. And already people are raising concerns about whether this is an attempt to pack the courts or not. In terms of reading meanings, yesterday we heard from the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, and he has been alleging directly that the courts are being packed because the president wants a third term. He doesn't draw the connection directly, but he's saying that it's part of the third term push by the president. That is how come these 7 new judges are being appointed. Let's take a listen or watch Afenyo-Markin speak on this particular matter at the press conference that the political parties had yesterday.
That the bold attempt by Mr. President to nominate out of the blue 7 judges to the Supreme Court is the first major attempt at all that they have rehearsed, a third term agenda. All that the NDC is doing, all that our president is doing through the advice of the hawks of NDC is to set a third term agenda for his leadership. They think that by packing the judiciary, there will be a smooth road for that third term agenda. Were we not in this country, where even 2 Supreme Court nominees, after going through vetting and were supposed to take their approval at the plenary, the same NDC said, by adding 2 more judges to the Supreme Court bench, Nana Addo was packing the courts? Was it not the same NDC where that criticized the proposal to even nominate for appointment 5 more judges to the Supreme Court? And as a result, no further step was taken by the Judicial Council? What has changed? We leave it to the good conscience of they themselves. But I want to tell them that we will not relent. We, in Parliament, will hold.
So that is the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, commenting on the issues related to the judiciary and drawing a connection between what he perceives to be an attempt to have the Chief Justice removed and the appointment of the judges and the third term bid of the President, John Dramani Mahama. We know that yesterday during the May Day celebrations, Labour had cause to also comment on this particular matter. In fact, the Secretary General, Mr. Joshua Ansah, did indicate that they want the President to hasten slowly in terms of how he's going about this particular process. He says it risks taking the country's democracy down a slippery slope. And so because of that, they want the President to be careful. Another statement has come in this morning from the Ghana Federation of Labour, and the point that they are making is to the effect that, well, the particular comment that was made by the head of the union about the Chief Justice removal process, they take the view that it's not a matter that reflects the entire position of Labour, in that there had not been broader consultation on that particular matter. So that statement is up on the screen right now. Let me just walk you through what the Ghana Federation of Labour have been saying. So that specific part of the statement is point 2 of the statement, and it reads that we take strong exception to the public reference made to the ongoing controversy involving the Chief Justice. That matter had not been deliberated among the leadership of organized labor, and to issue such public pronouncements without thorough legal consultation was premature, presumptuous, and inconsistent with the principle of due process. And so that is the point that is coming from the Ghana Federation of Labour. That is part of the Trade Union Congress, the mother body that addressed the nation yesterday and had told the president that they think that the president should hasten slowly because of the sensitive nature of this particular exercise that he's undertaking. And so that is it by way of where we have traveled since last week Friday when we had this discussion. And at that time, there were only two outstanding issues then. The issue surrounding the suspension and the directive by the acting Chief Justice. Another latest update you should be aware of is the fact that charges have been filed at the High Court against the former Director General of the Signals Bureau. And already people are drawing all sorts of parallels to it. In the course of the discussion, I'll be bringing you some quotes from President Mahama when he was campaigning about to be president, comments he had made about the judiciary, comments he had made about packing of the courts. And there's a link that people are drawing and saying that it is all part of the move that is playing out there. There are also those who strongly make the argument that, look, all what is taking place is simply in accordance with law. And unless and until you can point to any specific law that the president has breached, you might as well just hold your horses and allow him govern the country as he's been elected to do so. So this will engage our attention this morning. And joining me for the discussion this morning, Professor Enoch Opoku-Entry is a governance and policy analyst. He's joining me in the studio regular on Friday, Prof. Or the last time we christened him as Reverend Professor or Professor Reverend. I left that title out today. Reverend, it's good to see you once again. The church members are
the church members are calling me. It never stops. Yeah. I'm always thrilled to be here on Friday. And I wish all workers who were celebrated yesterday, happy Workers' Day. It's not easy to work, and every country is held by the workforce. So we salute them and appreciate their services. Second, I want to talk about Peter Appiah Turkson Cardinal being a capital that the government should explore. If you look at 13 years ago, in 2013, when Pope John Paul was elected as the new Papa, which is the Pope, we had a situation where his government, Argentina, gave him that kind of backup. And I think that Cardinal Peter Appiah Turkson need that kind of backup from our government. Government need to support him so that we can have the first black Pope. The third one that I want to talk about quickly is we have about 72 different sports associations. You know, Barcelona is in tight corner now.
we are not in a tight corner. The away goal rule does not operate anymore. So
definitely, but
Inter can play 5-5. We'll go and we'll beat you 1-0, and we are through.
Inter has given you a scare, and I think that Lamine Yamal is a great talent. Yes. That guy is a special one. Yes, yeah. But apart from the Ghana Football Association, we have about 72 different associations, and it seems that we are not concentrating on the others. We are not concentrating on the others. We are just concentrating on football and maybe boxing. But there are swimming, basketball, other sporting activities that even athletics, we can have a long way to get a lot of things for our country. So let's focus on some of these things and it will help a lot. But as we go along, I will talk about a lot of debt in our institutions, from Cocoa Board to the hospitals to GIHOC. You know, how can you sell alcohol and make losses?
I mean, the same point the president was
Yes,
making
because
yesterday.
Even in sporting, those who sell at the bars, when you lose, you know, you drink. When you win, you drink. In between, people drink anyway. And if you're selling alcohol and making losses of almost 50 million cedis, that's a problem. So why is it that any government institution, from electricity to Ghana Water, there's loss everywhere? And I think that what the president said was that we should empower labor now to be part of the policy decision-making and strengthen their hands, because there are a lot of things going on in their organizations and they seem helpless. They don't talk about it because once you talk about it, you'll be fired. And we should look at that very seriously as a country.
I mean, I think one interesting thing the president said that stood out for me is about the fact that the workers have to take the companies as being their own. And I thought it made a lot of sense, because the point is that they are entitled to full-time employment. They work there as long as they can. They retire, they leave. So if the company is not doing well and the government would have to shut down the company, then they risk losing their jobs as well. And so that is a call that we may look at subsequently in terms of our discussions. But joining us as well this morning for the discussion, Abraham Amaliba is a legal practitioner. I've seen him with the Constitution. He's already making some notes, as always. Whenever he comes in the morning, he does his finishing notes to be prepared. Lawyer, which motion are you moving this morning?
The motion to ensure that alcohol companies don't make losses. And I want to think that probably those who are in charge of the brewing of the alcohol may be drinking the alcohol, so that's why they are making losses. But on a more serious note, I think that we need to review our labor laws to ensure that we protect our citizens, particularly those who work with expatriate companies or foreign companies, Lebanese companies, other countries' companies. The way they treat our workers leaves very much to be desired. And yesterday, I had calls to talk about a phone company, a company that sells phones, and these ladies are made to stand all throughout. They're not allowed to sit down. There's one at the Accra Mall. There's one also at the American House. And that, for me, is an abuse of their rights. You cannot be standing all throughout. We don't even know how it affects their health. Whether they can give birth in future, we don't know. So I think the Labor Department must rein in these companies. And we have seen how some of these companies also maltreat our Ghanaian workers. So I think that much as we are celebrating May Day, which was to correct a wrong, there are some wrongs that are still occurring.
Yeah, I agree. I think that a part of the theme had to do with resetting and issues of salary and all of that. So it's something that we have to definitely pay attention to. Joining us on Zoom for the discussion this morning, Dr. Samuel Efriye. He's a policy and political analyst. Doc, thank you for joining us once again.
Yeah, good morning and greetings to you, your listeners, your viewers, and also your panelists, especially Honorable Maliba. Nice to meet you.
Yes. Doc, maybe let me start with you on the call, and I want to start the conversation from the latest that has taken place with regards to the removal of the Chief Justice. We are being told that political parties have come together to demonstrate. That demonstration is taking place on Monday, and additionally, they are drawing links with the appointment that the president has made to the Supreme Court to say that, well, His Excellency is looking at doing 3 terms. I want to start a conversation with you from the angle of the involvement of the political parties in this discussion. I mean, we expect political parties to make political capital out of situations, but is it healthy? Does it help the process entirely?
Yes, you know, the judiciary, that is the suspension of the CJA, you know, it seems it has not happened before, and that is where sometimes some of these things, it comes up with different facets of understanding and also different views and perspective. When you look at how the Constitution has been designed, I think the president followed the procedure. I think the president has not, when you look at the Article 146, I think the president has not faulted. But it comes along with these political views where most of certain decisions are being seen as political motivated because of the NDC government based on certain statements during campaigns and also the history behind the NDC in relation to the judiciary. So it makes it seem that when you build it up, then that is where the political agenda comes in. So there's nothing wrong when the president, I think all the president, former president or president who has come to rule in the Fourth Republic, I think they have been doing that, and it seems it's not being given much attention. But now it seems that the issue that comes in with allegations that is alleged more misconduct and behavior, and the president following the Constitution, there's nothing wrong. But when we try some of these laws, and when some of these actions have been taken, I think we also have to, the law has to be tested. And I don't begrudge people that send it to the court, the Supreme Court, whether the president has faulted in where there's a prima facie case or whatever, the people should have access to it in terms of the GBA view. These are all issues that will come out when the law it's been tested. At the same time, you can also realize that the opposition will take an advantage of it and try to give certain narrative in terms of how the NDC is attacking the judiciary. And I believe that my good friend Amaleba could have also taken that advantage when they are also in opposition. And that is, I'm speaking from the view of the politics, not the legal view. So it's politics, and I think that it will go all out in that direction. And the parties, the other opposition parties, will take political advantage out of the situation. But I will draw I think that the government needs to hasten a little bit slowly in terms of how certain actions have been taken, especially when you just see that CJ has been suspended, then a committee has been set up. I don't know whether they have started, but if they are not, then some few weeks or days, you realize that a new appointment has been made to the Supreme Court. And you look at the number, I think the number is so, I think we could have staggered a little bit to ensure, but I don't know the agenda of the government. But I believe that looking at the judiciary, if certain perception is cropping in, then you need to be very cautious so that you don't make it seem as a kind of a political or something that you want to change the face of the judiciary to even there's nothing wrong. The president has a right, but you know, sometimes we have to be very cautious about timing and also reasoning, a little bit of reasoning about how we manage the power that has been given to us, so that we don't give room for people to just make certain statements that even in the rightful sense is supposed to be so. But I think that the government needs to hasten slowly on the aspect of the judiciary. If there is a need for change, nobody begrudge the government. They have to do it in a right and timing as well, because it is just 100 days of the NDC government. And when you see that there's a drastic change in a drastic move towards the judiciary, there's a growing concern of people having certain perception that might not be good for the NDC government.
I mean, the point about the perception, I mean, to the extent that last year, the suspended Chief Justice had written to the president to say that the Supreme Court needs at least 20 judges, and she had even gone a step further to recommend various names for appointment. If her arguments were to hold, should the president not be justified in making appointments as immediately as possible, just to ensure that the caseload which the suspended Chief Justice has complained about is dealt with?
You know, I'm not saying that there's something wrong with the appointment, but you know, we people come from certain background of thinking and beliefs, and that is what I'm just trying to let the government be aware of some of these things. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong, and I think it presupposes that some of these constitutional review have suggested that, and I think I've heard the current president, even making it emphatic on one of his platform of saying that even the constitutional review tried to cap the Supreme Court 15. So it's something that we need to work on the judiciary. The judiciary need to be, I think I will use the Amalebam's term, to reset, but it needs to be moved in a certain, or that change should be in a gradual manner, so that we don't make that perception of the government become a reality. That is what my concern is. It's not about the government not appointing and the number. We have an issue about the capping of the judiciary, but it seems most of these leaders, when they come, they don't work on that. But I will be very glad and happy if we can have a cap for it, so that because now the President Mahama has appointed almost, I think, 7, and I think we have 8 now. So maybe it can be 15, and I don't know whether there will be any needed appointment again if we want to make it like the previous, that is a suspended CJ. So the assertion that we need to have some element of change in the judiciary in terms of the number of Supreme Court justices being appointed, and I think that will be of great concern to all of us.
I see interesting views there. I'll have you hold and I'll come back to you shortly. But let me come to the studio now, and I want to start with Prof. first. And Prof, I mean, since we started this whole discussion about the issues surrounding the Chief Justice earlier, I mean, you had generally been satisfied with how things are playing out. Do you still stand by it in terms of how things are going about, or you think that at this point there's something that you find problematic and you want to express concerns about?
Thank you again, my brother. There is nothing that we should be worried about because we are going strictly by the dictates of the Constitution. If you look at the Constitution, as Doug just said, the president has not acted ultra vires. It means he's within the course of the law. And there are a lot of questions some students have asked me, and I have tried to explain to them in simple terms. If you look at 146, the president is following exactly what the law says. Now, when it comes to discretionary powers, that is where the challenge is. And some law students just send me a message that, Prof, does that mean that if you are not a lawyer, you cannot be a president? Because look at the clause, what this clause says, that discretionary powers. If you are not a judicial officer, there shall be published by constitutional instrument or statutory instrument regulations that are not consistent with the provisions of this Constitution or that other law to govern the exercise of the discretionary power. Now, let me explain why some students are asking that this clause should be removed. So, who should use a discretionary power? If you are not a judicial officer and you are the president and you want to use discretionary power, these are the processes that you have to go through, and that doesn't make sense. Why doesn't that make sense? Because you don't have to be a lawyer to be a president. Anybody, a farmer, a trader, anybody can be a president. So we should look at that clause. I think this whole process is testing the robustness of our Constitution. But before I come back to that, let me quote this, that any political party has a philosophy that drives their followers' actions, thoughts, and then feelings in distinctive ways. And we need to be sensitive to those who have different values and different philosophies if we are to live together and make our world a better place. We need to be sensitive to each or such differences if we are to have adaptive, resilient, independent, efficient, and innovative institutions, because diversity of thoughts brings us innovation, but only if we are open to it and respect it. I am saying this as a preamble to what Afenyo Martin said. In academia, there's a difference between correlation, causations, and the fact that A plus B gives you C does not necessarily mean that C plus B will give you an A. We have a problem in our Constitution. Why? Because America Constitution is what we drafted ours from. And we picked that American Constitution says that the maximum of Supreme Court judges should be 9. We picked that and said that our minimum should be 9. That was wrong in the first place. 350 million people, their maximum is 9. 35 million people, our minimum is 9. Why do we have to pack a lot of judges at the Supreme Court, whilst we empanel just 5 and 7 for any case? So that is problematic. We need to fix it. Secondly, if you look at the number that we have, and I want to draw some parallels so that you will see that these are moral issues. We don't have moral compass in our politics. If you look at the 14 Supreme Court judges now, apart from Paul Bafuboni, who was appointed in 2008, and the senior most, the next one was Gabriel Pangwan, who was appointed in 2015, who is the next senior most. Apart from that, even the Chief Justice now was appointed in 2019. So I was wondering that, how do we have senior most justices and that this woman leapfrog them to become the Chief Justice? But the president uses discretionary power, the same thing we're talking about, to appoint her because he trusted her. Remember, anybody you pick as a leader reflects your judgment. So if you look at the list now, apart from that, every other person was picked from 2020. I think it was Avril Lovelace Johnson who was picked from 2019 with the current Chief Justice. All the others, 2020, 2022, 2023, 2024, 12 of the 14 were all appointed by Nana Addo. Right? Now, out of that, the president comes in, and because we don't have the limit to the maximum, he appoints 7. Now, those who have been in the justice system for a long time, this man, Justice Sergeant Dominic Ajay, he's the trainer of justices. Let everybody say it. Every lawyer, every judge knows that that man has been there, but for politics, he could have been in the Supreme Court for a long time. So why do we play politics in education, politics in health, politics in the justice system? Everywhere you have to belong to a political party before you get that thing does not help a country. So if you look at the 7 individuals appointed, somebody appointed 12, there was no problem. Of course, NDC talked about it. But if somebody also appoints 7, why is somebody with a moral compass complaining about the same thing? But anyway, he talks about the 3rd term of the president have said that he's not coming for a 3rd term. How come that 7 are going to overtake 12 and then all of a sudden we have a 3rd term? What kind of logic is that? That because he's bringing in 7, the past president brought 12. You are bringing in 7 and then the 7 outnumbers the 12?
I mean, so the argument...
Even at the remaining 2, that would be what? 9, right? Still not up to the 12 that Nanado appointed.
Yeah, but Prof, the argument that one will make is that so the Chief Justice, the acting Chief Justice, he empanels the court. Now, if he was operating with the 13 that they have currently, it will mean that he has to just pick 7 from it. And with the analysis you just did, it would have meant that if he decides to pick His Lordship Justice Paul Bafuboni, if he decides himself, he's sitting, and he has Justice Gabriel Palmer, then if they are doing a 5 sitting, he has to add 3 others.
Okay.
And all the 3 others will be those who you've made reference to that they were appointed by the former president.
So by the same
now,
logic,
if you send 7 there, the argument that some are making is that it will mean that at any point he can do the 5 and do the 7, or mix it up anyhow he wants.
So let's say that is a valid argument because we're talking about the premise and then the conclusion before it becomes logic. If your argument is logic, does that mean that the previous administration, the Chief Justice was always appointing, individuals who will vote for that? Is that why we were getting 5-0 verdict? Is that the logic here? That so we know that when you come, you do the same thing as we're doing. Is that the logic you have? So if we want to say that the previous Chief Justice was Nanado's prodigy, was a decoy, and that she empaneled only MPP faithfuls appointed by Nanado to make decisions, then we can believe that when these guys come, they will also do the same for JDM. And that should not be how we run a country in leadership.
I mean, but Prof, I want you to reconcile something for me. I mean, in one breath, you think that we should cap the number. You disagree with the numbers. That's in one breath.
Yes.
But on the other hand, you also think that it's fine that the appointments have been made?
It's not.
Because you make reference to
that was very good.
That's what we have on the screen.
The 2 run parallel.
We have that on the screen now. So it has a list of the Supreme Court judges. And you can see what the point that Prof was making about the fact that if you take out just Justice, the acting Chief Justice, His Lordship Justice Paul Bafuboni, and Justice Gabriel Palmer, appointed by President Kufuor and John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, it means that all the others were appointed by the president.
Yes.
That's how the court looks now.
Yes.
But, I mean, we need to put it in context that over the period...
All the rest are appointed by
the president. They were appointed by Nanado.
Yes, all the rest, yes. Yes, but we need to put it in context that over the period, we've had a lot of judges. In fact, about 11 judges have also retired as well. So, Prof, I was asking you to reconcile...
Yes, what I was saying is that the 11 that retired, we could have kept the number at 9 because most of the empaneling, which is one of the problems that the current constitutional review should look at. Most of the people that we empaneled, were 5 or 7. So why are we having 14 anyway? So if we want to cap and then we cap it at 9, as U.S. Constitution says maximum of 9, I think that the current should go for it. We should cap it at 9. If we want to do more, I don't see the reason why we should pack the Supreme Court with a lot of lawyers. But now that we have not changed anything in the Constitution, nobody is acting ultra-virus. What it means is that the president can also appoint people that can be those who qualify. And these are all appeal court judges who qualifies. So if somebody qualifies and the president feels that they have to be there, why are we afraid that the 12 that were already appointed by Nanado, the 7 incoming ones, will be empaneled and they will not be empaneled? Are we saying that that is what they did and that is why they are afraid? Because if we don't have anything in our cobwebs, why are we afraid that somebody is coming to join us in our position as Supreme Court judges? And that kind of politics where we are shifting posts, when we are in government, we support everything in our government, and we are out of government, we are against everything of the upcoming government. It doesn't help our democracy. That is why I said that we should have a moral compass. And in the advanced world, they are teaching what they call moral intelligence, which is very important. Here we seem to lack that. Moral intelligence. If it is for my government, anything that my government do, I support that. If it is for the other government, so we have variance in statistics. Here, people behave like me. Here, they don't behave like me, so we have variance. That was the birth of variance in statistics. Because we look alike, somebody don't look like me, then we have to separate ourselves. But that's not how politics is supposed to be. What we have to do is the moral compass that guides a nation. If people are going, or the president leadership is going through the constitution, and nothing has... Today, AEI are saying that, IEA are saying that even the Council of State's advice should bind the president. That's their submission. I saw from the front pages. IEA are saying that the advice of the Council of State should bind the president. Is it not the same thing that we are talking about? People are talking about the Council of State not being effective. And do you know that in the history of Ghana, only Kwame Nkrumah has been able to take off a Chief Justice?
Yes. Yes.
So no other president have attempted to do that. And we see how this one goes. That means we are trying to make amendments and, you know, testing the robustness of our Constitution. So I don't see anything wrong if we are working within the confines of the Constitution. If it is outside it, ultra-virus, then we cannot say that, no, you know, this is a threat to the judiciary. But the process is going on. The president saw the petition. He used his discretionary power. This morning when I was coming to work, something funny happened. It was amber, yellow. And you know that we all use discretionary powers everywhere. It was yellow. Yellow means you have to use your discretionary power. Either you can cross it before it's red, or you can wait. And you know, in Africa, people will be horning at you behind you because they want you to go. So you use your discretionary power, the same thing that the president is using. In the confines of the Constitution, that there are petitions. He gave it to the Council of State. The Council of State voted. You know, only one person, you know, abstained. All the rest voted for. Why did that former Chief Justice of Akufu abstain?
I mean, we've not seen any official, but
that is the suggestion that she abstained.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason. But the president have got something, a lawyer sent me something this morning, and I want to read it. He said,
I mean,
before he said, no, he said something that I think is very important. He said that the president has got something to do for himself. Either he pleases his party or he do what is right and fair for the country. And I think that the president is doing exactly what he's supposed to do, using his discretionary powers.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Let me come to AB now, Mr. Maliba, and I want to start off asking you directly what you make of the suggestion that by the minority leader. He's simply saying that, look, it's a third-term agenda. How do you process that?
I normally don't respond to imbecilic comments.
You would have to break that one down for us.
Yes. Because there's nothing, absolutely nothing, that is connected to a third term in the conduct of the president. Has he heard the president say, time without number, this is my legacy year? The man himself. So, Afenyo Markin, what do you understand by that? Even the man who used to commandeer chiefs to get up and greet him did not dare to go third term. This president is a consummate Democrat. I've had discussions with him sometimes, and he even told me how some countries, they warn some, his colleagues, he warned some presidents not to attempt changing their constitution, and when they changed the constitution, they went back home, and then at the African Union conference, AU conference, he and Jonathan were on the one side trying to restrain the president from doing that. He will not come home and do this. So please, that's why I call it imbecilic. And you see, what they are doing is to put fear in the people of this country. And then they will begin to get support that this is a third term. Why? If you have 7 appointed people to go to the Supreme Court, to add to already existing 12, how does that lead to a third term bid? I tried to find a connection and I couldn't get it.
I mean, I've seen a comment that suggests that in the event of a constitutional dispute, so if an attempt is made and there is a constitutional dispute that ends up at the court, then the acting Chief Justice, or if there's a substantive Chief Justice, or if the suspended one has returned, the court would have to determine the matter. And so he thinks that, they are saying that perhaps it is appointment of the judges to more or less, if I should use the expression that the His Excellency used while in opposition, even the skills, balance the skills. Would that be a logical progression you are open to considering?
And that is where I depart from them. You see, when the president met the NDC lawyers, and I'm the founder of the NDC Lawyers Association, I provided that background, the platform. When the president met with the NDC lawyers, he entreated NDC lawyers to join the bench. The 7 that are being promoted to the Supreme Court, were they in that meeting? Were they the recipients of that message from the president? Are these not career judges who have distinguished themselves in their profession? And ask any judge, be it a circuit court judge, a magistrate court judge, his desire or her desire is to be appointed to the Supreme Court. And let any of them, the MPP lawyers, point to any of these judges who are being promoted and tell the people of this country that they are not qualified to be Supreme Court judges. He just mentioned Justice Sir Dennis. He's a colossus. Senator Jomofe is one of the most, if not the senior most, at the Court of Appeal. Name them, all of them. These are people who have distinguished themselves.
I mean, I know Justice Akabuafo.
Akabuafo.
Yeah, Akabuafo.
Yeah. And these are people who have earned their promotion. Look, he made a point about why is it that Sir Dennis wasn't sent to Supreme Court earlier than this. And he made a point that they use politics to suppress him from going to the Supreme Court. And today, the MPP is saying that the appointment of these 7 is political. This is my comment. If politics was used to create wrongs in the judiciary, there's nothing wrong using politics to correct the rights in the judiciary. If you want me to repeat, I'll repeat it, but I'm clear. On any day, I'll support the use of politics to correct the wrongs in the judiciary. Was it wrong for Sir Dennis to have been put in the cooler?
15 years at the Court of Appeal.
And then Jomofe put in the cooler. Was it wrong? Yes. Was it politics? Yes. Is politics now being used to right the wrong? Yes. And on any day, I will lean on that politics. So there's absolutely nothing wrong. They say they are demonstrating because of the rumor of the Chief Justice. Look, Article 69 and the Constitution provides for removal of leaders of the 3 branches of government. 69 talks about how you can remove the president. There's a provision too for how to remove the speaker. And there's a provision for removing the Chief Justice. Are we saying that these provisions are supposed to be decorative pieces in our Constitution? Are they not put in there so that in future, if there's need to activate it, you activate it? And so when I hear people say, hasten slowly. Hasten slowly, in what sense? Because it could have been the president. Parliament can pass a vote of no confidence against the president for his removal. Will you say Parliament should hasten slowly? So I don't get it. I don't simply get it.
I mean, the point they make is to the extent that it's a novel occurrence. And Prof made reference to it that if you take CJ Akokosa home, after he had delivered a judgment, the president decided to sack him from office. I mean, even in the military era, they always left the Chief Justice untouched. And that is the point that the labor unions made yesterday, the novelty in this engagement.
It was novel to remove not only one electoral commission, but 2 more her deputies. You know, when we are always talking, we say that Charlotte said, but Nanado used Article 146 to remove 3 people. Nobody is seeing that. 3 people. People always behave like the other 2 people are inconsequential. 3. Nanado. The same Article 146 is being used to deal with 1 person, and that's an issue. A no-go area. For what reason? God forbid, this woman could have collapsed and died. What are we going to do? Nobody. So, what is this issue about an attack on the judiciary? How does it come about? Because a Chief Justice is being taken through the procedures or processes for removal. That's an attack on the judiciary. Today, go to the courts. The courts are working. There's no gun on any judge to pass a certain verdict. So what's an attack on the judiciary?
I want to circle back a bit on the point about the numbers. And I mean, you've dealt with the issues about the whole bit about balancing the skills that the president had said. But the other bit is the constitutional review that he had made reference to. The president had said that when he comes, they're going to have discussions about the constitutional review, thinking about the possibility of capping and keeping the number at 15. Again, your MPs in Parliament, they did not allow the approval process for 2 nominees, one Professor Frimpong and one other Court of Appeal judge. They didn't allow it to go through because they said the president had appointed too many judges. Now, all of a sudden, you come into power, you're talking about capping at possibly 15. You come into power, you're sending 7. We are going to almost 20. How about that as well?
I was one of those who even said that we could do with 10. But if the fish comes out of water and say the crocodile has 1 eye, who am I? The Chief Justice wrote a letter to the former president that the workload in the Supreme Court is so huge that they needed more justices. And indeed, she went beyond her powers and even named people she prefers they should come to the Supreme Court. So let's put that aside. That was an overboard. But the substance of the matter is that she made an argument to the effect that the workload requires more judges. Don't we as human beings change our minds if we are confronted with a certain set of facts? So has the president erred in appointing more judges when the current constitution allows for it? What you are talking about is constitutional reforms. So, and he has put together a team to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, Council, you agree that generally we have hovered around 14, 15 over the years. You agree with that?
And this beleaguered Chief Justice said that we should go to 20. Did you hear that?
That's fair. That's fair. Let me have you hold on. I'll come back. I'll come back to you shortly. Let me bring in Abraham Kumsin on the phone. Abraham Kumsin is the Secretary General for the Ghana Federation of Labour. Mr. Kumsin, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
I want to start off with point 2 in your statement. I mean, that is what sits within the discussion that we are having. We had heard Mr. Ansah yesterday, the TUC boss, indicate that the president should hasten slowly. Let me read your statement, specifically that paragraph. You make the point that you take a strong exception to the public reference made to the ongoing controversy involving the Chief Justice. That matter had not been deliberated among the leadership of organized labor, and to issue such a public pronouncement without thorough legal consultation. I want to first start off and ask that, is it your view that all the other matters that were expressed by Mr. Ansah, that program, were generally issues that Labour had debated and agreed upon before he expressed them?
No, sir. We never never described that. Even in the TVC position, we don't have problem. TVC is an autonomous labor center. If they met and took that decision, we decided to speak how we spoke yesterday. We don't have problem. But this forum, the forum yesterday, was for organized labor, not only this. So, if you want to speak, you must make sure that whatever you have in mind has been discussed by the organized labor leadership. But this didn't happen. We even sent some inputs, and they never captured even a sentence. They can stand there and we are doing politics that he himself, I know, he doesn't even understand the legal issue that he brought up there. You don't understand it. If you are asking the president to what? Tread consciously or whatever, what conscious trading? The president has activated a process to achieve some result in the interest of the country. Then you are saying that he said, is he a magician? He and is he a magician to know what could happen in the end. So yesterday, look, I was really sad, and I didn't want to create a scene. Otherwise, I would have snatched the speech, the paper from his hand, and threw it away. But I didn't want to create a scene. That's why.
But that would have been quite drastic.
That would be nice. But the president was there. If we were left alone with the workers, that one I would have done it easily. But the president was there. So when he sees me walking to the school and snatch, it will be something. So I thought that no, I should leave this man to go ahead with whatever he's saying.
I mean,
and even the Galamsey thing that he said. Galamsey, 8 years, 8 good years. What did we do? What did we do? And 4-5 men in office, and you are giving caution, threatening. What else the other again? If the TVC want to be annexed to NPP head office, okay, they can go ahead and do that. But we will not be part of it.
I mean, are you suggesting that the comments that were made by the TUC boss were politically motivated? Is that what I get you to be suggesting? Because I'm not too sure. I appreciate the reference to the MPP head office that you make.
So, I was there. I was at work. If you look at their program, the lady who prayed for the start of the program prayed political prayer. He prayed and at the same time urging the president to do this and that and all sort of things. Prayed. I think a man prayed. He did that. Then the one who did the introduction of the the guest to, he also was doing it with some political, tone. And everything that happened there, I said, what forum is this? Is this organized forum or is TVC forum? So they made up everything there, and I walked out from there, but like I said, I've got created a team. So honestly, whatever was presented there, it represents the TVC position, not organized labor, as far as some of us are concerned, because DFL is a critical stakeholder. And if the TVC doesn't take care, we have given them up to the end of this month. We will drive them to court to challenge their mandate, to mount a platform and speak the way they speak. We challenge it. We challenge their mandate. That's it. They like the joke.
I mean, is it not too early to be sounding those alarm bells, if I'm to put it that way? And I want to ask, for the ordinary Ghanaian, one would be worried and may express the concern that it appears there's a lot of politics that takes place at the union. And the reason is that on the Galamsey issue that he made reference to, just last year, when Ghanaians expected the TUC to back the protest, the TUC, Labour for that matter, you pulled out at the very last hour. Now all of a sudden there's a change in government and you are back on the Galamsey issue again. And now you're also making reference to it. Some will say that it appears you are just divided politically.
That's That's the annoying thing that I'm talking about, because 8 years, this that I'm saying did not start last year. It didn't start 2020. It didn't start 2019. It has been there. And so, for 8 years that we had a government that we think that could have, addressed the issues. We never. We only made some empty threats, and it fizzled out. Then 4 to 5 months, new government in power. Come on, what is that? If they want to recognize as NDP next office, they will come out. But I know that, I don't want to mention them, but I know those who are seriously, NDP fanatics there, the TV3 leadership there. I know them. And if they challenge, I will open up and call their names. I know what they are doing. Because how come that at such a forum, the national chairman of the TV3 read his speech. The second general also read his speech. What kind of nonsense is this? It's madness. Two of you, chairman speech, the second general speech, then the one who prayed also speech, then the vote of come through also speech. All attacking. What kind of nonsense is this? My guy, let me end here.
Yeah, Mr. Kumsi, just a final question. I want to find out, so in the short term, what will you be doing about this particular matter beyond issuing the statements to call out the leadership for representing a position that does not reflect where the unions stand on this particular matter?
No, we are writing to them. What you read, it was a letter written to the Secretary General of the TV.
Okay.
Yes, you wrote it. And
what do you expect them to do? What do you expect them to do directly?
Come again.
What do you expect the TUC to do? Is it that you're expecting that?
We are giving them up to the end of this month that we should meet as so-called organized labor leadership. Then we look at the structure. I'm saying this because we are taking the TUC to court over the representation and the mandate that the children try to use. We send them to court 2013 because the National Business Act, which was passed in 1965, recognized TUC as the mouthpiece of Ghanaian workers. Then we that no, the way the TUC, it wasn't good. They were not representing the interests of the workers, because the law too, unfortunately, gave the employers that compel the employers to deduct dues at source from workers' pay and pay to TUC. So complacency and all that made them ineffective, inactive. They felt that whether they perform or not, they didn't count. So they were not performing. So we challenged that law itself, and we succeeded to get it amended in 2003, which brought about the Act 2003 Act 651. And that law removed the TUC's name from it. It wiped it off, clean it, indeed. Then in place they put organized labor. Unfortunately, the organized labor that was put there was not defined. They didn't define the organized labor. So after 2003, the TUC is hiding behind some of these errors to still project themselves as if they represent organized labor. So we took them to court 2013 to challenge that mandate, that why should they continue to represent Ghanaian workers? Why do we have these organized labor in there? So the court agreed that, okay, we should structure ourselves, put in place proper structures that will be able to identify all the unions so that we can be able to, work effectively. And since then, we have had series of seminars, workshops. We have developed the structures. Our constitution, everything is ready. So the thing is started by backtracking. But they know that once that structure is adopted, their influence will go up. They can no longer behave like they behaved yesterday. When we have the Organized labor, you can't go there and talk the way they talk. We will be impeached at the forum. That day, no, we'll be impeached. We'll drag you out. Then another person will take over. But now, so that's why we have given them up to the end of this month. If they don't come out to explain their conduct, their behavior, and also agree for us to consolidate this organized project, and we move on, we get them to court again.
Mr. Abraham Kumsin, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Mr. Abraham Kumsin is the Secretary General of the Ghana Federation of Labour, and he joined because the organized labour yesterday had told the president to hasten slowly with regards to the removal of the Chief Justice, and now you heard him there suggest quite strongly that they feel that the comments that organized labour made were politically motivated. Let me go back on Zoom and engage Dr. Samuel Afriyie now. And Doc, I mean, first, I just want to pick your views on what is happening with the unions with regards to the alleged political interference and the suggestion that the position they represented yesterday was a politically motivated position. That is one. And secondly, I mean, if you have any reactions to any of the issues that have come up so far.
Dr. Kumsin is so being hard and, want to remove, to get the mic from their leader. That is the way Dr. Kumsin is speaking, it just tells you what is going on within the labor union. And I think you ask a question if that is what is going on by situating into the Galamsey issue last year, that is late last year, where the last minute they have to withdraw from the strike. And it seems there's some political motivated kind of division within the labor front and the front. And I think it doesn't make a headway. The labor union should have a consensus building in terms of some decisions and not being, if you are not careful, it seems every aspect of our facet of life politicized. And that is something that we are so concerned that even where there is no need for a partisan approach or some kind of political influence, then you see some of these leaders, even our student body politics, you see these politicians moving in to ensure that they have political motivated leaders in most of our universities and most of our tertiary institutions. I think we have to be very cautious of that. But I will urge that Dr. Kumsin try to engage with the leadership so that we all have a common front. The way TUC has come so far, you can realize that most of the decisions are should I use the word political tainted, because it comes down with a lot of issues. As even the GB has also been tagged in terms of that. I think my good friend Amaleba will testify. You see certain institutions being politicized, and I think we have to be very, very, very careful so that we don't edge some of these institutions. If not, it will create a lot of problems, and we will not see their value. We will not see their relevance. The issue that they drop, you see, when these institutions comes out with their views, I think we should be accommodating and try to see if there's, excuse me to say, there's an element of sense in it, so that we all fish out from these issues. I like what Prof. Entry said, that in terms of moral intelligence, we lack in this country, and we believe that we need to work on that seriously. We don't have values, excuse me to use that word. We don't have certain way of handling issues, and also trying to be cautious that this is my stand, this is my stand. We tend to try to manage some of these issues in a way that sometimes you don't get the picture very well. So, my dear, I think we have to look at these issues very critically, so that the trade unions will not also be seen as a political arm of these politicians, so that they tend to use them to achieve their interests.
I mean, there's a part of this whole conversation, the connection about the Supreme Court and the judges. And I mean, during the conversation with Mr. Maliba, the point that we made was that some of these judges are some of the most experienced judges that we have in our courts. And unfortunately, because of how we have discussions in the country, they end up being caught up in this whole political web. I mean, if you pick last year, one of the judges who had been, one of the individuals who had been nominated to the Supreme Court, Professor Frimpong, he's a well-published, internationally recognized lawyer in the field of international law. And all of a sudden, you subject them to this political back and forth. Now, currently, we have a judge who has been at the Supreme Court for a long time. In fact, he's on the African Human Rights Court as well. And this whole discussion is taking place. I mean, we should get to the point where we need to insulate our judges and the courts from such discussions and such commentaries. How do we do that so that we can just trust their competence to do the job that we expect them to do?
You know, I don't know whether you have felt this experience before. If you qualified, you know that everything, at least you know that it's the opportunity to be the leader, is opportunity because you have experience of everything, and you have been bypassed. I don't know how you feel, and sometimes I don't know how some of the Supreme Court, that at least if I use the current one, the Bafubon and the acting one, how you will feel. And these appeal court judges, you know, we are humans, and sometimes you feel when you are working and you have all the requisite experience, you are known. I think we mentioned Dennis, right?
Yes. Sir Dennis Ajay.
Sir Dennis, at least I've heard that he's most of the experience and have even trained a lot of these justices, even judges at the Supreme Court. And he has been sidelined because of what? Is it political? You know, that is where the problem is. We should rather look at the competence. We should rather look at what the person is bringing, but not the political. So it doesn't mean that if I'm not in line with a certain kind of political party, I cannot be given the opportunity that I deserve because of my career progression. It's something that we need to get it out from our kind of system. If not, we will lose a lot of people who are experienced. We will lose a lot of people who can change things for all of us. You know, we can't sit down for this to continue to happen. How can people be sidelined because they are sympathetic or they are aligned to what political, especially when it comes to certain professions? In all these educational institutions, health issues, as you were saying, we are politicized, and it makes us to reduce people, to lose people who are required to make the necessary changes and to help all of us. How can we do this to ourselves? It's unfortunate that we are towing this line, and I think we have to stop this as soon as practicable so that we get the right people to manage some of these institutions for all of us. I feel for that when I deserve a position based on my career experience, based on my qualification. I have been over the analysis in the past for almost 15 years. And I've been sidelined because I share a view in line with a certain political view. What is the meaning of that? It's unfortunate. And you make such people to feel so bitter in their career, in their progression in life. And I think we should stop these things. It might not be me today. It might be you tomorrow. So we need all to come together so that we streamline things in terms of appointment to some of these leadership based on competence and based on, and then that is what we think that some of these constitutional will help all of us so that we dissociate certain kind of partisan approach. And I like the former, that is a Chief Justice, where he has made suggestions to the Supreme, that is a constitutional review, about how we are to remove Chief Justice in future. Yes, I think that is how it works. You know, when we see a gap, when the law is being tested, and we realize that it will not favor us, it will not help all of us, then we come out with new ways to ensure. And that is what I'm so suggesting, that if things are not moving way because now everything is politicized, then we don't get the right people to lead the affairs of these kind of institutions, then we should also come out with certain kind of procedural kind of appointment or roles that will give opportunities for people who have worked hard, who have the needed experience, but not based on political lines. And I think that will help all of us. I'm sorry for those who have been victim of these things, and it's unfortunate that we are heading towards this direction.
Okay. I mean, I'll come back to you on the last discussion as we wrap up, Doc. Let me come out to the studio now and pick closing remarks on this particular topic. And I mean, it'd be the same question to him that I asked him as well, about how some of these individuals, very qualified, and there are those who are blaming you, the political parties. It's your comment that you make either when you're in government or opposition that puts them in that uncomfortable situation.
So what's the question?
The question is that how do we deal with this particular matter to ensure that judges who deserve to be at the apex courts doing their work, we don't impute political motives when they are appointed, so that it doesn't now become a political football? Why are you appointing them? Why are you not appointing them?
Until we have or introduce a new way of appointing judges, we have to have a situation where the presidents who are to appoint would desist from appointing judges who are politically exposed. I can understand that we may have our political persuasions, but I also do not want an open and outright individual who is known to be wearing some political colors to be appointed to the Supreme Court. Somebody says that, well, that even is better, because you may go and appoint somebody that who hasn't got political color, but is worse than the one who has political colors. But nonetheless, the optics too are also good. The optics. So it's about time that those who are appointing appoint people. So for instance, when you take this 7, it's difficult for you to pin them to a political party. In fact, Dennis has made rulings against the NDC.
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah. I mean, if you pick Justice Akabuafo, you remember the Zaneto matter at the High Court. He said she was not qualified to contest it. Went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court overturned it. So, if our presidents take that stand and say the nation first, and I'm saying this because we have not yet changed our way of appointing the judges. But if not, I would have said that we should leave the appointment of judges in the hands of the judiciary, where all the judges, that's magistrates and judges, would vote to determine who is their Chief Justice. You get my point? That would have been mine. But until we get there, let whoever is present today, tomorrow, look at the national good. Because you remember the MPP, the National Security Coordinator, Kandapa. National Security Minister.
Minister Kandapa made a public statement to the effect that if rulings are going in a particular way, it's a recipe for national security concern. He made that comment. You know? So, but if you have a judge who, after his appointment, would put on his thinking cap and say that, look, even though I was appointed by these people, but this is wrong, I can't give it to them. We need such type of judges. And when I complain about the lack of confidence in the judiciary, and that rulings go in a particular way, I don't expect the NDC to come and pack the courts with NDC-inclined judges or thoroughbreds who are NDC, just to do the bidding of NDC. I expect this type of appointment, like the Sedenis, the Akabuafos, who, when it's wrong, it's wrong. we'll give it to the other side. That's the only way we can reset our judiciary. But where you have a predetermined, outcome immediately, and that's why there was a time in this country when a particular group of people always say, go to court, knowing that they have done wrong, but they will ask you to go to court first. And I've seen this post on social media that if a thief tells you that you should go to court, it's either his uncle is the judge or he has a relation with the judge.
Why not the mother-in-law or the father-in-law?
I don't know. You can ask. So I don't want NDC exposed judges. I don't want these judges to go there and be doing the bidding of the NDC. I don't want it. I want a reset. I want a situation where these judges will take the national interest into consideration and ensure that if the NDC, which appointed them, has a bad case, rule against us. If it is the MPP, rule against them.
Okay.
If it is for the MPP, give it to them. But I hate the situation where once you see the panel, you are able to determine the outcome. And it comes out like that. I am not for that. So I commend the president for the caliber of people who have been appointed. These people, I can tell you, are people who would do the work of the judiciary without fear or favor. That, for me, is the way to look at it.
Well, Prof, I'll come to you just a second. Your friend Ebo has sent a message. Ebo couldn't join us, but he sent his closing submission on this issue. Ebo, if you send big words, I would be jumping over them. Ebo says, Afenyo Markin's cacophonous theatrics deserve utter contempt. If Akufo-Addo could appoint 12 Supreme Court judges and even sought to add 5 more, then John Mahama, acting within his constitutional mandate, must be allowed to appoint 7. As our elders say, even the one who cuts off heads fears to sleep on his back. The MPP, having used the court for its parochial agenda, now fears the NDC will do same. That is the message from Ebo.
I think Ebo have said what I was going to say. We all have conscience. In fact, those who do bad and those who do good, we all have conscience. When you are doing the wrong thing, there's a voice that speaks to you. And I'll read something about Hosea that God said that Ephraim has resorted into idols, leave him alone. It gets to a point that even God will say, leave the person alone, because you are not using your conscience. That is why the law of categorical imperative says that wrong is wrong, no matter who is leading it or who is behind it. And if we can begin to think that way, it will help our young democracy. Why do I say so? I've seen people, even in academia, not being promoted because they are assumed to belong to party A or B. Why we do political party colors and everything bothers me. But I listened to one former minister of Akufo-Addo's government. There was a guy, his friend, his wife was, I think, from Cameroon, trying to get Ghanaian citizenship. And then he asked the friend, what political party do you belong to? And he said, I don't belong to any political party. And he said, then I'm not going to help you. You are not telling me the truth. You have a political party you vote for. And he told him that, look, I was not an MP, but I live in an NDC-dominated constituency. Then they saw the good in me and voted for me. So I'd rather work with an NDC honest person than in my own government MPP person who is not honest. Those are the kind of people I'm looking for. And morals, I've always been preaching morals. If we don't have morals, we'll never move forward as a country. But I've seen Hastings, slowly. The president is not fast-tracking anything. Is he fast-tracking anything? So why should somebody say you should hasten slowly? He's not rushing anything. He's just going through the process. Sometimes we throw some words around here, and I don't know why.
They have no meaning.
You see, he's not rushing anything. He's going through the process. And now the committee is working. The Chief Justice will be allowed to come and then submit whatever she has to. The other thing I want to say is that we should now cap, based on the constitutional review, we should recommend this president. Remember, Mr. Tamil started this. Nanadu, who is a lawyer for 8 years, never touched the constitution. It was perfect for him. Now that we are working to work on, you see that this organization, including Professor Mike and his team, are visiting Professor Prempe and making submissions. Why didn't they do that? A lawyer who knew all the flaws, but he used it to his advantage, and now somebody who's a communication expert, not even a law person, is doing this because we realize that for 33 years, our constitution, most of them, is outdated. So we should cap it at 21 because we are going to add 7 to the 14, and that's going to be 21. We should cap it there, and then make it a minimum of 9, a maximum of 21. I think that will help us. We need an odd number, not an even number, because of the way votings are done. And then we should look at the way we empanel judges, because we have sent a signal to the rest of the world that we are not a serious country. Why do I say so? You use birth certificate. You were born at a hospital. There's a doctor. The parents' names are on the birth certificate, and we sat in our Supreme Court to say that that is not a legal document, but a passport, which is a secondary document that we use the birth certificate to make, that is rather legal. The signal we sent to the world was that we have dubious ways of getting a birth certificate, and that is not the way we should go about it.
In terms of the empaneling, what practically can we do about that?
In terms of empaneling, that has been our problem, because if the Chief Justice empanels, that is their prerogative powers. And if they empanel individuals who they think that will vote for a particular cause, and that is why we are getting 5-0, 5-0 in most of these rulings, because the empaneling is picking your favorites. All of this should stop. If we're a serious country, I've seen even when we talk, somebody says, oh, Prof is an NDC professor, this person is an MB professor. Can you see how silly we are? Can we say somebody is a democratic professor, a democratic lawyer? That's not how we should. If you are an intelligentsia person, if you are an intelligent person, you have your own brain to speak to the issue using your critical thinking. And we should begin to respect people on that cause instead of tagging people as belong to political party A or B. Because I started by saying that we all have our conscience. If you look at what happened with A+ and the Attorney General's case, we should also be looking at campaign funding. And I think the Office of the Special Prosecutor should look at campaign funding. Because if people are being given cars and money, and others think that because of that, it will affect the way some decisions are made, especially in the areas where they are making a lot of losses in the country. The Office of the Special Prosecutor should look at that issue and make sure that people who fund campaigns are not finding, the backdoor way of changing policies or influencing policies in our country, because that is gerrymandering, and that is also part of corruption.
I mean, but I think we should also get to the point where people make allegations. I'm sure you'll agree with that. They should be ready to come forward with the necessary evidence to back that allegation.
The Attorney General came himself to talk about it.
Yes, that's against making allegations, and the positions keep shifting. When they respond, they shift their allegations.
And now the allegation is removed.
Else. Yes, I mean, it's a whole lot of different things. But
we should be serious as a country and stop this politics. Everything is politicized. Everything is politicized. Why? Can't people have the right to join any political party they want? We should respect that. If somebody wants to join NDC, allow them to enjoy it. That is their choice. If somebody wants to join PP, that is their choice. We should live in harmony, because Ghana is what we are looking for, the common good, not just political parties. Ghana first in everything that we do.
Some messages that have come through so far. Prince Henry from Koforidua, he says here, is the CJ above the laws of Ghana? That's the question you're asking. The Chief Justice is the cause of her own problem and should be allowed to carry her own cross. The law is the law, and so shall it be. The more the MPP defend the CJ, the more her case becomes crazy. And this one from Kwablavi of Pukwase, that's from Pukwase, Benghazi. He says, President John Mahama's government can't work with Chief Justice, her ladyship, Justice Getutokonu, because she will make things difficult for the NDC government. And that is why she must go. She should know better and vacate her position and put an end to the illegal battle that won't keep her in office. And she wouldn't behave like a child who doesn't know what to do in this situation. I've been given some 3 minutes. If I can do 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute of everyone. There's this conversation about the MPP's thank you tour that is taking place. Yesterday we heard from Dr. Arthur Kennedy. He's asking for the party to suspend the program. In fact, he goes a step further to allege that he's learning that former President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo no longer backs the candidature of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. We're going to do this just 1 minute, 1 minute. Let me start with Doc on the Zoom quickly. Okay, we can listen to Dr. Arthur Kennedy, then we'll come back and go to Doc on Zoom.
Yes. So even though he artfully uses the royal we, etc., etc., the reality is that if you understand language, when the vice president says, reshuffle for 8 years, he means the president, if you understand language. And this is fueled by the knowledge in the party that the former president has made a decision and communicated the same to some members.
Yes, sir. Doc, briefly, direct question. Should the MPPs thank you to all that is taking place? Should it be suspended with all that has happened so far?
I think if you have tracked me, you will say that I should be very happy for not them continue, because I was having a different view of thank you to what has been assigned to you and you were not able to do it, and then you brought defeat and you say thank you to the people. So I was against and even demanded that the national executive has to resign. So in my view, I think it was not thought through by the national executives and the leader, that is Dr. Bawumia. I think it should have been well structured and well organized. That is why we see some of this confusion within. So I think it has to be well planned and well thought through in terms of what they will say to their people, because their party members wanted to hear something. You know, it's something that they want to hear in terms of hope. Why they lost, yes. But certain kind of roles should have been assigned, but not always. You see Dr. Bawumia leading, trying to identify or trying to echo some of their reasons why they lost the election. So I think it was not well planned, and I think they have to go back and probably even change that thank you, though I disagree, and should not be used as a way of thanking people when you have been humiliated in this 2024 election. So I don't think that it works well. There's a confusion. Okay. And it seems like it's a political platform it's a platform, a campaign platform for these two candidates, Dr. Bawumia and also Honorable Kennedy. And you see these stabbing issues. It's so mad with kind of trouble or confusion. So it has to be stopped. And I agree to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samuel Efriye there. Let me come to Prof now. I mean, Prof, where do you stand on this issue? 1 minute.
Monday,
they should suspend it or they should...
Yes, Monday I spoke on UTV and they played about 5 minutes of what I said. I still stand by that. Former Vice President should rather go on apologies tour first before saying thank you. And Kwadwo Mpiani, the former Chief of Staff, have made it clear that according to MPP Constitution, it is the chairman of the party who now leads the party. It is not Bawumia. So you can see that it is now touted as a strategy, campaign strategy for him. That's why Kennedy Japan's campaign also joined. We see some stabbing, we see some slappings, we've seen a lot of things going on. It means that it was not well planned. And if you don't plan anything, everything is left to chance. It's like a lottery. So I think that MPP should first go and apologize to their faithfuls, because we know that most of them did not vote, decided not to vote because of what the party did to them. Quick example, somebody said that a lot of them said that they paid money to MPP constituency executives to look for jobs, 20,000, 200,000 Ghana cedis, 20,000 Ghana cedis, 10,000 Ghana, 30,000 to look for police, prisons, and all those. They took their money, but they never even had a job. Okay. Their own, party members. Such a person, you apologize to them first before you say thank you.
Okay. Let me wrap up with you, AB. As for the NDC, I'm sure you are satisfied with
you see,
what is going on.
We need a strong opposition, but if you consider the fact that what the MPP took the people of this country through, the hardship that people went through, at a point in time, there were people in this country who were praying for a coup d'etat. In silence, the things that people went through. So for me, what they are going through is child's play. They should continue with the thank you tour.
I thought you started on a note that you want a strong opposition, but you want them to continue with that. That is our discussion this morning. My guests have been Abraham Amaleba, who just wrapped up for us. He's a legal practitioner. He's also Director General of the National Road Safety Authority. Professor Enoch Opoku-Ntwi is a policy and governance analyst. Prof joined us as well. And joined us on the phone line, we had Abraham Kumsin, the Secretary General of the Ghana Federation of Labour. He joined us for the first part of the discussion. And Dr. Samuel Efriye is still with us for the first and the second part. Dr. Samuel Efriye is a lecturer. He's also a political and policy analyst as well. New Day continues. Stay tuned in. I am Joseph Akable.